A woman named Greta Gerwig has an absolutely wonderful podcast called Go Zen, G-O-Z-E-N. And it's for parents of small children, and any of you who are in that stage of life would do very well to listen to her. She's terrific. I think there are about 60 podcasts of it. I've been reading it, listening to it, for some time now because my grandchildren said that their parents were better parents because they were listening to it. And I thought, well, that has to be good. And she opened one of her recent shows by saying, women have lots of chances to imagine themselves as men, but men have very few chances to imagine themselves as women. And she wasn't being pugnacious. She was just kind of stating what seems to be kind of true in this world. And I don't want to talk about women and men today. I want to talk about animals. But I think that what she said really applies to the human and the animal. They have plenty of chances to kind of think about us, see us, notice us, but we don't pay them much mind, really. And we don't really know what it's like to be an animal, because we're a human, in case you didn't know that, in the Anthropocene era, which everybody says might be over, but I'm not sure at all. We just had COP25 in Madrid, the Council on the Environment, and almost nobody talked about animals at all. It was all about how humans were going to save humans. And I read a wonderful article from the Alliance of Baptists, actually, that said, well, that's what's wrong with the whole thing. That kind of human-centric sense of the natural world as being sort of ancillary to us, like we didn't need it. And in the sense that we don't really understand animals, I think moreover, we project on them a certain softness, which is very strange. We do this especially at Christmas. If you think about the manger scene all by itself, the main character, there are more animal characters in the manger scene than there are humans. And I do have 7 really beautiful manger scenes, setups, and Roland, our former custodian, hid them, and I can't find them. They are in the building somewhere. And one of these days, they're going to appear. I just know they are. They're all in a beautiful box in Roland's strong hand, which always said, "Do not touch," on it. And there's one that's an Eskimo manger scene, missing a shepherd. There's one of a Spanish-Mexican scene, missing a baby Jesus, and I could go on. But they're from all over the world. They're beautiful. They're packaged up nice. And he hid them every year right after Christmas so no one would steal them or steal any more of the characters that were there. So what I have left is a new manger scene that I just put with the Advent wreath, which is a rubber ducky manger scene. And it, unfortunately, is missing the baby Jesus. I don't know who took it, but it was somebody in my office, and I will find out who it is. And there will be problems. There will be problems. So I do have all the sheep, I have the cows, I have one wise man, and well, you can see what's there. So let's just think a minute about those shepherds and the sheep. What were they doing? They were watching their flocks by night. Why were they watching their flocks by night? So another animal didn't come and eat the sheep that they intended fully to eat. Right? That's what was going on. So they were not just watching their flocks by night one night, they were there to protect their property from other animals and potentially other people. And they really did think of themselves as the superior to those animals. And it's so interesting that what the angel did was to bust in on that scene in the same way that the Isaiah passage busts in on that scene and says, nope, that's not how it works. God comes to human to become flesh and dwell among us, or simply stated, to maximize the mutuality of all beings. I'm going to keep returning to that. God becomes human to maximize the mutuality of all beings. And some of you know that I've got a small love affair going on with Pope Francis, because he says in his magnificent environmental work, Laudate Se, he says that we get it at the heart of the environmental crisis is the lack of mutuality between the human and the earth, between the human and the non-human living thing. That's what he says. And there it is, right there in Christmas. So let's talk today about enjoying the Christmas story from the point of view of how we might maximize our mutuality with God, with each other, and with nature. And I'm just going to kind of talk quite a bit about real animals. And let me assure you that this is not an anti-vegetarian or a pro-vegetarian sermon, or even a Grinchy one. I am fully 100% in favor of vegetarians, and I think they clearly have the moral argument, as do vegans, right? But that's not what this is about. This is about something that is not a food choice or a moral food choice, or it's not even really about social justice. It is the foundation of what we know as social justice. But you can forget about social justice and still think of yourself as a human who depends on the flesh of something else, or the water of something else, or the grain of something else. You can have respect for that which you are dependent on, as opposed to look down your nose at it. So, a bunch of small stories about animals. First of all, we had a woman with us for a while just recently who really wanted to kill herself. She is finally in a facility that's going to be able to help her. Thank God. And thank all of you who helped with that matter. And you know why she hung on? She didn't want to live. She was very clear about it, but she didn't know what to do with her cat. I think she made it long enough to check herself in, because we refused to do anything about the cat. Another story. The New Jersey bear season has been extended. Bear hunting season has been extended 5 days because some officials decided that they hadn't met the 20% reduction yet in the bear population for the year. Now, what principles might have been at play in that decision? No bears in suburban backyards. That's the principle. But what an interesting way to live in a world, right? That the human, the one with consciousness, makes decisions about how many bears there should be. We were just with a dear friend of ours upstate doing a housewarming, and she remembered the time we had helped her grow a garden. And something really, really soft and tender happened in that garden. We were digging, it was early spring, we were planting lettuces, and a whole handful of baby bunnies were burrowed right there in the ground. And the shovel had already hurt one of them. And Warren picked up the baby bunnies and said, "Okay, what do you want me to do?" And she said, "Well, will they come back and eat my lettuce?" I said, "Absolutely. Why wouldn't they?" I won't tell you the end of the story. I mean, I could do more on Rudolph the gravity-defying reindeer, or Alvin and the Chipmunks, or that wonderful cartoon where the ox finally is the last animal who knows how to speak and says, "Oh my God, we wasted our opportunity," by bickering, as though humans had never done that. But instead, what I really want to conclude with is a question from a chaplain at Bates College. So every year, the students are so anxious. Anxiety is the #1 issue on college campuses today. It is #1. They're all trying to figure out how to get college students to relax. And Bates has initiated Puppy Dog Day during finals, which apparently does the trick. It does the trick. It's a wonderful day. They all love it. People report that everything is a lot better. It's sort of like me and my dog, Sybil, whom some of you know. When she thinks I need a walk, she takes the leash off the hook, drops it in front of me, and says, "You really need to take a walk right now." Do you see the difference in that? That's where we've got to go. Maximum mutuality. Not to relax ourselves, and relaxation is a good thing, and it will come as a side effect, but in order to truly observe Christmas, to understand what life is all about, if you buy this best story in the world, which is to maximize our mutuality. We talk a lot about our community ministry program around here, and I realized early on that I was learning so much more from them than they could ever learn from me. Do you see it? So I, quote, teach the program in order to learn. Mutual mentoring, maximizing mutuality. And the funny thing is that it's true that animals understand us better than we understand them, but we have consciousness. We can change that. Amen.